Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2019 mod career mode with Charles Leclerc driving his Ferrari car for the 2019 season. And here we are for episode number 2, round 2 at the Bahrain Grand Prix. If you guys did miss the opening round of this series, uploaded 2 weeks ago at the Australian Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. And on that note, uploaded 2 weeks ago, my original scheduling for this series was going to be uploading an episode every time there was a real life weekend. So every time there was a real Grand Prix, you get an episode of this Charles Leclerc 2019 mod career. But since Codemasters have now announced the official 2019 game will be coming out a lot sooner than we think, you can expect a lot more of this series a little bit quicker, and hopefully at least minimum 2 episodes per week moving from this weekend onwards. So there was a 2-week break from episode 1 to episode 2 to coincide with the 2 real life Grand Prix having a 2-week gap, but from now on you'll be seeing 2 episodes of this series a week pretty much until we wrap the series up basically. So hopefully that's music to a lot of your guys' ears, because I know a lot of you guys were very eager to see episode 2 come out a little bit quicker than it has done. So be sure to smash the like button if you're looking forward to more of this series a bit more often now, since we have to kind of, get it all done and finished before the end of June. But we're diving straight into this then with a bit of a recap and highlight of what happened in qualifying. Of course, doing one-shot qualifying in this series, so that's the only way the 2019 modifications to the PC F1 game work best, with a one-shot qualifying here. So lost a little bit of time in the opening corners here. You can see locking up on the front right didn't really help me too much going wide, but we do get up into P6 from that P11 where we were in the initial few turns, and the Ferrari was mega through this section. We got all the way up into P1 then, and now we're battling Sebastian on his ghost lap time there for the front row. So much like real life, we've got some decent pace in this Ferrari car compared to what was obviously, if you watch episode 1, a difficult race for both me and Sebastian. And so like real life, I think episode 2 here in the 2019 mod career will be a little bit easier for us and maybe a lot more enthralling in terms of the results we could maybe get at the end of this race. But as we have a little bit of a twitch of oversteer on the exit of the last corner and running to the line, we actually slow down a little. I think we might have derated a tad, because we actually go down from what was looking like P2 to P3 eventually. So this is what the starting grid then looks like for this Bahrain Grand Prix in this 2019 mod career. Vettel on pole position, then my teammate alongside Lewis Hamilton in second place. Myself in third is Charles Leclerc alongside Pierre Gasly in the first of the Red Bull Hondas. Then you got Bottas P5, Verstappen P6, Carlos Sainz and Magnussen next, with Romain Grosjean and Nico Hülkenberg rounded at the top 10. Then you got Ricciardo and Sergio Perez sharing a row with Danica Kvyat alongside Lando Norris. It's then an all Alfa Romeo row of Kimi Raikkonen and Antonio Giovinazzi, then ahead of Lance Stroll in P17 and Alexander Albon in P18. In the round of the grid, no surprise, the 2 Williams cars, Robert Kubica and George Russell on the last row for the Bahrain Grand Prix. Right, so here we are then on the second row of the grid, annoyed because I definitely made some mistakes, especially in Sector 1, kind of killed off the lap in a way straight away because I lost a lot of time in the first few turns. So I think a front row lockout could have been possible, and I think we have way more pace to try and challenge Sebastian Vettel, our teammate, in the race today, in this career race. So we've got a 2-stop here, super soft to the 2 sets of soft tyres. Of course, if you did miss episode 1, the caveat for the 2019 mod, the only thing they can't really modify is the fact that in 2019 there's only 3 different colours of compounds, but here at Bahrain, actually quite nicely, it is actually matching the real life, the red, yellow and white striped tyres here. But we're going to go from the super softs there to the 2 set of soft tyres for a 2-stop strategy. Leave enough fuel there to play around with in the race, and let's just get into this then as we kick off the round number 2 at the Bahrain Grand Prix as we go to 5 red lights for the second race of the season. 5 lights are out and we're underway. It's a good getaway for us. A bit of wheel spin for both Vettel and Hamilton, but still a good getaway from the pole man, our teammate. Into turn 1 we go. Hamilton still on our inside. He's going to make a huge dive actually, and he's gone for it, and he's side by side. He's made it work somehow, and he's found the pace round the outside of Vettel. He goes, and he's up into first place. Very surprising pace there from Hamilton off the corner on turns 2 and 3, and into turn 4, trying to see if we can make a move round the outside of our teammate. There's Vettel, clearly a little bit flustered then on this opening lap, so a big surprise from Hamilton then in the Mercedes car. I said I made a mistake in qualifying. I think we had the pace in the car to make it a front row lockout for Ferrari, but clearly at the very start of this race on heavy fuel, that Mercedes car is not looking too bad, and Hamilton obviously had the aggression into turn 1, very surprising aggression really to make that dive, and he's made it work. But as we move on now to the end of lap 2 onto 3, for me, I was losing a little bit of time really. You can see the gap's grown to Vettel, so at this stage Vettel's gone purple, so he's closing down and trying to chase after Hamilton. But for me, I was trying to settle into this Grand Prix. The car wasn't feeling too great compared to how it was in qualifying, so definitely for me I was just kind of biding my time and getting used to the car on heavy fuel around this circuit, whereas Vettel was straight on it there with the purple lap time. And as we move on to the very next lap, there he goes, chasing after. He's now got DRS enabled, so he'll have a better straight line speed on Hamilton, of course, to try and make a move. He's going to duck to the inside before initially faked to the right and then went to the left, and he's got the move done down the inside through turns 2, and he's up into first place. But Hamilton might come back with a good exit. We saw how good the exit was for him on lap number 1, so here he goes again. Vettel defensive to the end of sector 1. Hamilton the long way around. He's going to be hung out to dry though by Vettel, and Vettel will get back into the lead of the Bahrain Grand Prix that he kind of deserves after having that pole position there. Hamilton down to P2, and now he might be vulnerable. So the Mercedes car looked pretty damn quick in the opening lap, but now maybe this is the true pace that we've got in this car, and the true pace the Mercedes car has is now Hamilton is falling back into our clutches. And so on lap number 5, do we have the pace to try and close up to him? We've got a decent amount of battery power on the bottom right there, but not too much to play around with for more than maybe half a lap, and you can see the exit is pretty horrendous for us actually. So still trying to navigate this circuit, and I'm not really having too many clean laps to be honest here as we move on to lap number 6. And Hamilton, it was going to be the one that's going to be attacking, because he goes and attacks my teammate Vettel. Vettel very defensive to the inside of turn 1, going to squeeze Hamilton out through turn 2. Then Hamilton tucks in behind, and he gets a good exit I think, because Vettel has a bit of a wobble there on the exit, and yeah, he is vulnerable as the tyre wear kicks in a little bit for everyone. Vettel goes very defensive, and Hamilton this time, second time of asking, on the outside of turn 4 in towards the S section as we go down the hill before we hit that hairpin. And Vettel is going to have to try his best to hang it on the outside for this next left, but Hamilton comes back. It's a fantastic fight between the two bitter rivals in Formula 1, Hamilton v Vettel. This is absolutely amazing here. We're just sat here with a bucket of popcorn here in P3 to be honest, but Hamilton's got it. He's up into first place, but he's always locked up. Oh, Hamilton's made a horrendous mistake, and that is very uncharacteristic there. And Hamilton's down to P4. Vettel's pressured him into a mistake maybe, and now it's a 1-2 for Scuderia Ferrari. Beautiful stuff there. The pit wall's going to be loving that there. It's Vettel P1. We're up into P2 with Leclerc, but here is the replay then of that battle, and it was a really nice one to watch to be honest from the inside the cockpit of this second Ferrari car. But really great battle, but Hamilton gets the job done and then immediately gets flustered here, and then just obviously locks up the front left, can't rotate it, and then he just goes straight off there because basically he had no rotation in that front left tyre, and he goes so slow coming back onto the circuit. He's down to P4 now, that is, and it's Max Verstappen I think, or Gasly in P3, one of the Red Bull Hondas in P3, and the other one is behind in P5. Yeah, it's Verstappen. So Verstappen, who had a bit of a slow qualifying, is now up into P3. Gasly's P5 behind Hamilton, who's now down to P4. So yeah, quite a change there in the Grand Prix. So now we move back to our POV on board on lap number 7. We're closing up to Vettel a tad, but I'm actually going to come in for a pit stop on this lap. The undercut is pretty powerful around Bahrain, and my tyre wear definitely is, I'm feeling it quite a fair bit. I don't know about Vettel, but I was feeling it quite a fair bit, and so I wanted to come in. I was making quite a few mistakes on that opening stint, and I think a lot of that, to be fair, was due to the super soft tyres not being too consistent as a race tyre. I think we're going to find life a little bit easier on the soft compounder tyre here on the yellow wall tyre. So we're down the pit lane then. Obviously it's now up to us. We have to go, you know, full attack mode, rich mix, hot lap mode, try and get through any traffic that we do have there as we come out the pit lane. Obviously you can see the midfield fight is quite close as ever in 2019, so we just need to try and make the most of this, and hopefully Vettel's tyres are going off more than I think they are, and we can maybe try and get right, you know, side by side with him maybe on the pit exit when he makes his pit stop. But as we move on to lap number 8, we're now got DRS on Lando Norris, the Brit, the youngster in the McLaren, and so around the outside we feed it. Lando gives me a bit more of a fight than I was hoping for, but we eventually get it done. He has to slot in behind, and so we're going to have a look at those next cars coming up there. The Alfa Romeo of Kimi Raikkonen, the man Leclerc replaced in the Ferrari. Now you can see teammate in the pit, so Vettel has just come into the pit lane now for his first stop. So let's see if I've done enough maybe. The only traffic I had to overtake was that McLaren car, so I had a pretty good amount of clean air, so my engineer did actually time that quite well. And Vettel, crucially, gets held up there by one of the Red Bulls. I think that's Verstappen coming in for his stop as well, who was in P3, remember. And so down the main straight, here we go. We've overtaken him there. Look at the minimap, that red dot, and we're ahead of Sebastian Vettel. So we've got Raikkonen P2. I think there's a Racing Point car in P1, but eventually we will be in a net first place. So absolutely amazing work by my engineers and a good call to make that early pit stop. The undercut has worked an absolute treat there, and so we're going to be ahead of our teammate into the race lead once we get past this traffic of Raikkonen, who's going to be a little bit tough actually. He's quite good in a straight line here, the Alfa Romeo racing car. He goes defensive to the inside, but we don't have quite the overspeed to make a move on the outside, so we try the inside and he blocks us off quite massively there, so we eventually get the move done, but Kimi not making it very easy for me, and so we're up into P2, but we lost some time to Vettel, who is on the back of Lando Norris, I believe, and eventually on lap 11 we're going to be creeping up to Sergio Perez. Vettel is up into P3 then, and he's got past that traffic himself, and can we now try and overtake the Mexican and get into the race lead proper? And to be quite satisfying actually here to make the overtake on track and get into the lead this way rather than waiting for Perez to make his pit stop. Of course, he's on softs from the beginning of the Grand Prix, so he's on a bit of an alternative strategy. Here we go on the right hand side. Should be a pretty easy move on the outside. Yeah, Perez slots in. We're up into P1 then, and we lead the Bahrain Grand Prix with Leclerc in the Ferrari. Vettel though is still there in P2, and you can see on the top left he's actually on super soft tyres. So Vettel went longer, stretched his first set of supers, and that's meant he can do an aggressive two-stop on 2 sets of supers. So let's see how this goes. For now, lap number 13, you can see in a straight line, I've got the measure of him, and for now, we can stay ahead. But on the right-hand side, you can see I'm a none on ERS because, you know, we're burning a lot of ERS to maintain that lead in a straight line. As we move on to the back straight, the second zone of DRS, Vettel's going to have a pop to the inside. Very surprised, to be fair, actually, there. We're going to try and move to the inside, but we don't really have the grip for it, and so instead, we're having to just tuck in behind and go right up the chuff of Vettel. But now to this next right-hander, maybe poke our nose in. There we go, very aggressive stuff. Vettel's still there though on the outside. It's the first real battle in the desert then between us two Ferrari cars. We had an epic duel at the Australian Grand Prix in episode 1 of this mod career mode. It looks like we're going to be back again with another great Ferrari v Ferrari duel with Sebastian Vettel. And so here we go, bad exit off the corner there. Had to really wring the neck out of this car to get it back in a straight line. But here we go then, DRS open there, high ERS only, but rich mix going, and that's going to be maybe enough to pull a move on the outside of turn 1 to the inside of turn 2. It certainly looks like it as us two Ferrari cars swap positions once again, but we compromise our run into turn 2 a little bit, so we tighten up the racing line. So will Vettel have anything to answer on the run to turn 4? Doesn't look like it then as we cut away, and this is now Vettel cutting into the pit lane then for his second stop. So obviously being on super soft tyres, he has to come a little bit earlier than us, so we had about 3 laps then after Vettel came in for his pit stop to push on these soft tyres and try and eke out the rest of the tyre wear basically left in there and try and make some good in-laps work as we now come in for our second and last stop of the afternoon, or not afternoon, or night time really here at Bahrain. Obviously afternoon for Europeans, but yeah, Vettel, I believe he's pit onto a set of medium tyres, so he's not actually gone that aggressive actually if you think about it. So we are still going to be on a set of soft tyres, so we'll have the softer compound at the end of this Grand Prix. The difference is he'll be on warmer tyres coming out the pit lane here. I don't know what kind of traffic he's hit. We didn't have any traffic, but at the same time our tyres were wearing out. So let's see where Sebastian is as we come down the pit lane exit then. We're still in P1. That is a Rich Energy Haas car of, I believe, Magnussen, and we're in P2 then on the road, and Vettel is there, P3, so we maintain that, and that's really good for us because I was quite worried that Vettel would have some surprising pace on that new set of medium tyres to get us there, but no, he's not. So the undercut hasn't worked out for him. But I need to point out a big factor of why I've maintained the lead ahead of Vettel is because I burnt a lot of fuel. You can see on the bottom right there, my fuel gauge is red and then the negative because all 3 of those in-laps I had before that pit stop were on rich mix. So I've had to sacrifice that, and so now I have to be in lean mixture for a bit to try and get that fuel back. And also I don't have too much ERS either to play with. You can see on the bottom right there, the bar is really quite low. And so now on to lap 20, we're back into the race lead, but for how long? Because Vettel's round the outside, even on medium tyres, he's got the pace because we're having to turn down the engine a little bit. Vettel squeezes through on the inside there, but we're going to switch back move onto the left-hand side, but Vettel's going to have the better run into turn 4 because we've still got our engine in lean mixture, so he pulls ahead, you can see on the inside, but we're going to brake early, try and cut in more aggressively on the curb, and we do a second switch back in a row, and we get the place there. Beautiful little battle there with Vettel, but we ultimately get back into P1 with some clever work on the racing line, and so we maintain the lead and maintain P1 ahead of P2. It's still a 1-2 for Ferrari, so it's still all good, but to be honest, I'm getting a little bit worried because if we fight a bit too much, you can see on the mini-map there, Verstappen isn't too far behind, but I can't really do much because Vettel's got so much more pace on a straight line because I'm having to save fuel, and even with overtake mode here on lap 21, he's gaining quite a fair bit. For now, we maintain that lead just about, but now I don't have too much ERS to play with, so if I use ERS one lap, I have to save it the next, and so it's kind of back and forth, and so Vettel maintains this pressure on me as we move on to lap 22 now. Even in overtake mode, Vettel is close closing up on me, and Verstappen has set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix as us two Ferraris continue to fight. We've gone too deep into turn 1. A mistake from me. Vettel is on the outside. He's managed to find the grip. He's still there. We're going to aggressively squeeze him to the right. On board with Sebastian. You can see how aggressively we're pushing him to the right, and then swooping back to the left-hand side to take the corner on the outside. It really has been a marvellous desert duel here between us two Ferraris. Vettel v Leclerc. Absolutely amazing stuff there, but we maintain the lead for Leclerc. Vettel's P2, and you can see there, unfortunately, Verstappen, like a little bit of a shark rather than a bull, is coming through in P3 in that Red Bull Honda. We're going to have to watch out for him, but as we move on towards lap 23, still again, Vettel might come and ask a question for P1. What can we do? You can see there we're still in the negative on fuel, but we're using overtake mode. We're using the last bit of our ERS down to none now as we enter turn 1. Lock up on the front right, but we do enough just to stay ahead of Vettel, and now I think the tyres are starting to kick in a little bit, and Vettel's tyres aren't holding up too much grip as they were maybe when they were brand spanking new, because we're able to maintain P1 into the end of Sector 1, and you can see they're playing around with the ERS, trying to save a bit, because now if I can try and use the grip of these soft tyres to get away in Sector 2 and try and save ERS, I can try and push away maybe, and meanwhile, here goes Verstappen. Now this was the worry, and it's happening. Verstappen down the inside attacking Vettel and trying to take away the 1-2 for Ferrari there. Verstappen's done well on the inside of the last corner, but in a straight line, hopefully the Ferrari can match him there. Honda v Ferrari, and it looks like actually the DRS with Verstappen's working quite well for him, because he's able to kind of hold it neck and neck, and into turn 1, Verstappen has the better inside line to defend this. Can he squeeze out Vettel? I think he can. Vettel will slot in, and so it's Verstappen up into P2. It's, to be fair to him, a brilliant drive. He set the fast lap of the Grand Prix whilst doing it there, so fair play. But you can see now onto lap 24, we've saved up a decent amount of ERS. We're going on rich mix here. I'm going to go into even more negative fuel, because now I'm thinking almost like in real life, like the drivers did. I'm in P1. I want that fastest lap. I want that extra point. You know, you'd rather get 26 points than 25. So here we go, setting purple and purple in Sector 1. Sector 2, we're going even more negative into the fuel. But the thing is, by setting this fast after the Grand Prix, I'm also getting quite a good lead to Verstappen, so I can afford then to turn down the engine in the last laps and save back the fuel I'm burning right now, and also with the ERS. You can see literally so low on ERS, but there we go. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix goes to Charles Leclerc, and hopefully that won't be beaten. And so today we can maintain P1 here. We'll be getting 26 points rather than 25. And so here goes now, cutting back onto this battle, and Vettel is back up into P2 ahead of Verstappen. But because Verstappen has soft tyres and Vettel has mediums, I feel like this fight's just going to yo-yo around, because Verstappen's so good in sectors 2 and 3 to close up. And also this man, Hamilton, the man who made a mistake in the opening laps, might come back as well if those two fight enough. Let's see. It's on the very next lap. You can guess it. Verstappen comes back with DRS on the right-hand side of the circuit, cuts across Sebastian Vettel, gets back up into P2. But surprise, surprise, yep, you guessed it. Vettel's going to come back at him on the very next lap with DRS. Bahrain really is a great circuit for overtaking here, and is, you know, in some ways it's quite questionable why they needed to have 3 DRS zones in a way, because it is quite easy to actually overtake in a straight line at Bahrain with the way the last corner's set up. But as Verstappen and Vettel still battle on hammer and tong for P2 and P3. It's P4 for Hamilton as we cut on quite nicely. Good timing here to a battle for P5 between, this is Sergio Perez in the Racing Point car and Valtteri Bottas in the Mercedes. So quite a quiet race for Bottas really this episode. Bottas down the inside though to get that P5 off Sergio Perez. Meanwhile P7 I should say, is going to be one of the Haas cars there, just ahead of Kimi Raikkonen, who's in a bit of a train and is for now keeping at bay Pierre Gasly, who did well in qualifying, but much like in real life now, is being quite quiet in the Grand Prix here, and is being stuck behind that Alfa Romeo car, and then close behind is that Haas and then McLaren. But we're now going to move back to that fight between Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen, and this will be the last time they do battle maybe here as we move on towards the last lap of the Grand Prix. This is across that line, and so Vettel with this might be the last chance these two fight, and so this could be the move that seals the deal and seals the 1-2 for Ferrari. Vettel up into P2. Verstappen, and does he have anything to answer? I don't think so. He's down to P3 now. Vettel, pretty good exit actually, looks like they're off turn 2, and so there we are in P1. A bit of a nice gap there. We're able to control that, get that fuel that we burnt back down into the positive, so it was a very nice ending to the Grand Prix for me to relax a little bit and just manage the race really, and just kind of enjoy the fact we're in P1 compared to what a tough race we had at the Australian Grand Prix, of course. And so Vettel is going to seal the deal. He is going to keep in P2, and so we cut back to our onboard shot here with Leclerc through the last corner on the last lap of the Grand Prix, and so the fireworks are going to come out here at Bahrain under the floodlights. We're going to weave around for the race win for Charles Leclerc, the Bahrain Grand Prix. Absolutely fantastic work there. Great stuff.
Superb driving. That's the race win.
So, another excellent win from Ferrari. And Anthony Davidson, give me your thoughts. How did they accomplish this result?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
So, here they come now, out onto the podium. Wherever you go, anywhere in the world, the prancing horse flags are dominant in the grandstands, and they're out in force again today. It's Ferrari on the top step once more.
So there you have it. We've done the job and we've gotten Charles Leclerc his first F1 race victory here at the Bahrain Grand Prix. It's a 1-2 for Ferrari ahead of Sebastian Vettel. Verstappen a really good P3. Hamilton with that bad mistake down to P4. Bottas in P5. So still pretty solid for Mercedes, but they were definitely on the back foot in terms of race pace today. Sergio Perez does a brilliant job in the Racing Point car to get up into P6 ahead of Magnussen. Gasly, underwhelming performance there in P8 compared to what he did at Australia, with Raikkonen getting some points for Alfa Romeo Racing, just ahead of Romain Grosjean to round out the top 10. Of course, remember, we get 26 points, not 25, because we were able to secure the fastest lap of the Grand Prix and beat Verstappen to it there. And really, honestly, it was really Verstappen getting that fastest lap, just before he started attacking Vettel. That kind of spurred me on and motivated me to get that fast lap, because, to be honest, I kind of almost forgot about it in a way. And so right at the end there, it was really satisfying to get that final point, because you never know, the championship could well go down to a single point, and if it does, you'll be thanking your lucky stars you got a fast lap of the Grand Prix earlier on in the season. So for the Drivers' Championship, then, we are level on points with Hamilton then on 38 apiece, because of course Hamilton also won and got the fast lap of the Grand Prix last time, the opening round of this mod career series. Vettel's up into P3 then in the championship. Magnussen, Bottas, Ricciardo, Verstappen. Ricciardo obviously got a podium last episode, a very surprising one to be fair, considering the slow pace of Renault this episode, so he's doing quite well to be right there in quite a lofty height actually in P6. Gasly now behind Verstappen after a good performance from Verstappen. Perez, Carlos Sainz, and Romain Grosjean. Quiet race for McLaren there. They had a lot more pace, it seemed like, in qualifying. Carlos Sainz right up there, and Sainz did well in the Australian Grand Prix. So, sometimes these things happen, just like in real life, in a career mode, on a game. Things happen sometimes, and some luck comes into it. And so the McLaren's just quite unlucky today, because I believe Lando Norris DNF'd out of this race, actually. And so in the Constructors, then, Ferrari do lead the way, 66 points to Mercedes 54 there, ahead of Haas, who are in a great P3, ahead of Red Bull, who finally climb up a little bit ahead of Renault there. Then you got Racing Point, McLaren, Alfa Romeo, Toro Rosso surprisingly yet to score any points there, ahead of Williams. Of course, no surprise there for them to be at the bottom there. But guys, if you did enjoy what was a fantastic, really awesome duel with Vettel and a really enjoyable Bahrain Grand Prix, then be sure to smash that like button. Let me know your thought in the comments below of that race. If you are new around here, you can subscribe for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been aarava. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.